I started out getting into houseplants, I did a lot of research. I googled and looked at so many YouTube videos, and I was terrified of overwatering them, because overwatering apparently is the #1 reason houseplants die. I let most of my plants dry out completely before watering thoroughly, and it's been working out for me so far. The other day I came home and I saw my syngonium super soft and droopy, and I realized, why not do a video on what plants look like when they're in desperate need of water. Now this is a philodendron hederaceum, your common green heartleaf philodendron, and I let it go a day or two to dry before watering. The leaves are textured, a little bit wrinkled, and it almost has that curly lipstick plant vibe going on. And in this video, I'm going to show you side by side what a droopy thirsty plant looks like and a perky water plant looks like, as well as the moisture meter reading side by side. This is the syngonium that inspired this whole video, and if you just compare it to the pink one sitting in the back, you can see that the longest stems are all bent, as if they were not strong enough to hold the weight of the leaves. And when I insert the moisture meter, the bottom is so light that the moisture meter is tilting sideways. However, when the plant is watered, the stems are no longer bent, the leaves are facing upwards, and the soil absorbed enough water and became heavier, and it's able to support the weight of the moisture meter. If you look at this leaf, look at the left side, it is curling backwards as if it's having a hard time staying flat. The same leaf, however, looks a lot flatter, and the left side doesn't curl backwards once the plant is sufficiently watered. This is one of the more subtle differences on camera, but if you're observing your plants on a daily basis in real life, it is a lot easier to tell. Aluminum plant is one of those plants that get very dramatic when it gets dry. However, because I put mine in this mini terrarium, the 3 enclosed sides are kind of stunting the growth and causing the leaves to point downwards all the time, so it's again less obvious of a difference. Regardless, if you look at the opening side, most of the leaves look like they're pointing downwards, and if you check out the soil, it looks thoroughly dry. This is what the plant looks like 24 hours after it was thoroughly watered. You can see the moisture meter reading jumping to very high. The soil is dark, the container is heavy, and if you look at the leaves in the front, they're energetic and no longer droopy. Here comes the infamous pilea peperomioides. Just like the syngonium that I showed earlier, this pilea has that similar structure of long skinny stems and bigger leaves that are kind of heavy for its weight, so when the plant needs water, it droops somewhat significantly. Again, the difference is more apparent in real life than on camera. I normally let my pilea get completely dry before watering it thoroughly. However, I learned from my coworker Emily that you can also keep it moist and water it a little bit every day. I gave her 2 of my pilea babies, and hers has been living gloriously on the windowsill at our work for a couple months now. The last plant I want to show that has pretty big visual difference dry and watered is this Croton. What's interesting about it is that if you look at the moisture meter reading, Crotons flop like this before the soil even gets completely dry. Therefore, it is safe to assume that Crotons want to stay moist and don't like drying out completely. Rubber trees are one of those plants that can go through very dry soil. However, it's hard to show you the difference visually when it's dry because it really doesn't look that different. The key to rubber tree is really in its leaf texture. When the rubber tree is dry, the leaves are actually flimsier, squishier, and limpier. Here you can see me pushing the leaf down and the leaf came back without much bounce. You kind of have to take my word for it and experiment with your own plant. However, if I do it again on the same leaf when it is completely watered, it has slightly more bounce. Similarly, the leaves that were originally squishy and easier to fold is now harder and tougher. Most of the common peperomias on the market have this thick, waxy leaf texture, and these leaves are great at telling you whether they need water or not. I'm not sure if this is considered damaging the plant, but it is really fun to squish around the leaves when they're dry because of this interesting floppy texture. And if you look close enough, you might be able to tell that the leaves are also visibly thinner when there's almost no water left in the soil. Consequently, when the plant is watered, the leaves are no longer fun to squish, and you might be able to tell that they're thicker as well. Another interesting thing about this soil and pot combination is that I have very well draining soil sitting in a terracotta pot, and the plant is on a shelf facing a west window. Therefore, even though it was watered just 24 hours ago, the moisture meter reading is still very low. This is one of my plants that I need to water every 3 days. This is a textbook example of a dry peperomia. I'm squeezing these bottom leaves and look at the wrinkles. They remind me of grapes turning into raisins. I'm using the bottom leaves since they show signs of drought and stress the earliest. I believe for other plants with waxy succulent leaves like Hoyas and string of hearts, the behavior is the same, and at this point, the moisture meter reading is about 1. 24 hours after watering, if you touch the same leaves again, they're gonna be very stiff. It is pretty much impossible to recreate those wrinkles even if you try. I happen to have another Peperomia Hope on hand and can show you a side-by-side comparison. Again, the moisture meter reading doesn't go very high even if it's just a day after watering. I have 2 more Peperomia examples to quickly show you. Both are very common specimens that you can find in most of your big box stores and garden centers. The first one is this Obtusifolia Variegata, and if you have heard of Nick Pileggi's taco test, this one folds extremely easily just like a taco shell. And once it's watered, it turns into this glossy cardboard texture. Similarly, this Peperomia tetragona, the bottom leaves are soft and foldable when it's dry, but after it gets watered, it literally feels like stiff matte cardboard. So this Sansevieria Moonshine I'm showing was initially gonna be a joke, because no matter watered or dry, I just couldn't get it to display any differences. But the other day, I found out by accident that I neglected a moonshine for too long, and look at these wrinkles. Just like the Peperomia Hope that I showed earlier. Finally, this precious Calathea zebrina. I didn't have the courage to dry it out completely, fearing permanent damage on these beautiful leaves. I wouldn't let them go below the 2 reading, this number 2 reading on a moisture meter. And the leaves, if you look at them, they're already a little bit uneven and curled. And it is even possible that I am underwatering them and letting them go too dry in between watering. I do, however, have some documented evidence of what they look like when they're dry. This is a while back, as the plant is significantly smaller. This is pretty dramatic, right? However, just like any other dramatic plants, they recover extremely fast. These pictures were taken 10 to 20 minutes apart and the leaves bounce back completely. Just as a disclaimer though, I'm not saying that you should only water your plants when your plants get this dry. In fact, I kind of let them go a little bit too long without watering to achieve this look and feel on camera so that you see a bigger visual difference. I'm hoping to provide some visual reference by putting more information into the houseplant knowledge pool online and hopefully help you feel more comfortable in letting your plants dry out before watering them again to help prevent overwatering. Plants recover so much faster and easier from underwatering than overwatering. I hope you still remember the heartleaf philodendron at the beginning of the video. I want to play a little time lapse of the first 5 hours after it got watered. When it comes to plant movements, people don't first think of philodendrons, but it turns out they follow their own flows and rhythms just like any other plant. Thank you for watching. If you like plant entertainment videos like this, feel free to subscribe.